the father of English essay, Francis Bacon, right? A very important figure as far as prose is concerned, right? Francis Bacon. So Francis Bacon was born in London, right? We will discuss him in a bit detail, right? Born in London. Remember, when you are attempting your history of English literature paper, you do not need to provide details about every writer, right? What you can do is you can discuss all the authors of a particular age, but a few in details, right? Not all of them in detail, right? Remember, it is not always about piling up the papers in masters, right? But you need to provide detail about everyone, but not too much, right? Just short detail, but not for all of them. Like if there are 3 or 4 prominent figures, you have to discuss them in detail. Clear? Okay, so he was born in London in 1561, right? And died in 1626. Right. In 1576, he went to Paris. In 1582, he became barrister. Right, then in 1584, I will explain how all these things happen, but just to provide you a little detail. In 1584, he became the member of the parliament. بیا د پارلیمنت د ویسته هم وو ځکه چې د نو دا لږ داسې ګړنکپ غوندې وو. So he became the member of the parliament, right? And in 1618, yes, in 1618 he became the Lord Chancellor of England. Right? Okay. As far as his literary career is concerned, he was master of English prose, right? He was master of English prose. He was a lawyer, he was a statesman, a philosopher, a politician as well, but unsuccessful politician, right? He was an original thinker, right? Bacon was an original thinker. He was an original thinker because the early 17th century was a philosophical vacuum, right? Early 17th century was philosophical vacuum. Like if you ask me why, so the answer is that the great philosophers like William of Ockham was a great philosopher of his time. William Ockham, he died in 1347. And John Wycliffe, he also died in 1384. او د دینه بعد بیا چرته د کار فلسفر مونږ ونی لیدو. So we had Bacon then, right? Okay. if we provide if we study a bit detail about how Bacon started his career and what happened, so it would be a bit better, right? So Bacon went to Cambridge University, but he left that university because he was not happy with the educational system there. He was not happy with the Aristotelian method either. What is this Aristotelian method? What is aesthetic humanism, occultism? We are going to study them, right? As we know that he was of a noble birth, right? He went to France for studying statistics and diplomacy, and then he came back and requested his uncle to give him a job, but his uncle refused, right? He studied, after that refusal, he studied law and became a successful lawyer, right? The Queen Elizabeth Chickum door wo bhage ki badat se promotion na mila, though he was not promoted. But then in King James' reign, he made himself his favorite, right? The King James توجه ki do zani chide pe night ko seishwa. He was brilliant but shrewd, and it was also a reason to Bacon was also a reason to behead one of the Queen Elizabeth's favorite and powerful minister, whose name was Essex, right? او دا Essex چې ونه دا د ډېر زیات یوز کړی او د خپل پروموشنز دپاره، خو خوار چې دی هم د ده لاسه شهید شو. ټیک شوه؟ Okay, with the passage of time, he was promoted to his late father's post, Lord Keeper of the Seal, and then he became the Lord Chancellor, right? But the باندې بیا د رشوت الزام لګېدلی نو او هغه د کنفس کړی هم و. He also confessed accepting bribe of some amount, and then he was punished to pay 40,000 pounds, and he was also banished from the parliament and the court, right? No bia de di har sana baad in सब चीज़ों के बाद जो है तो उसने क्या किया, उसने राइटिंग पे फोकस किया और अपनी सारी एनर्जीज जो थी तो वो उसने राइटिंग पे कंज्यूम की. क्लियर? तो हम फिर उसकी एसेस की बात करते हैं. सो he wrote lots of essays, right? His first 10 essays were published in 1597. First 10 essays were published in 1597, right? And it was an enormous hit, right? It was a big hit on his part, right? Because his writing was terse, there was terseness in his writing. It was epigrammatic and aphoristic. We are going to discuss these things, right? And he condensed larger ideas into smaller and few and smaller words, right? And this was something that was become very famous about him. It was actually a signature style of his writing then, right? And then in 1612 he published his second edition of his essays, and there were 38 essays. And then in 1625 he published the present version of all his essays, right? His essays include of studies of truth, atheism, friendship, goodness, similar, simulation and dissimulation, and he wrote a lot, right? He also wrote in Latin, पर Latin की हम ढेर ज़्यादा लिखल करियो clear. There is a big list of his Latin writing, clear. Bacon did not invent anything scientific. अगर पर साइंस की से दुम्र खास कार no करे, मतलब से invention you know, but still his theories, his ideologies, his essays, they had a great influence on the scientific interest of the coming ages, and scientists deduced lots of ideas from his writings, clear. Bacon was living in an age where men were busy with romance, with philosophy. He insisted a shift from books to man, from theory to fact, from philosophy to nature, and this was the greatest contribution to life and literature from Bacon, right? We talked about Aristotelian concepts, so let us study it in a bit detail. Late 16th century के three किस्म thoughts. There were three systems of thoughts. Three systems of thought in the late 16th century. The first one was what we call Aristotelian Scholasticism. Aristotelian Scholasticism. The second was aesthetic humanism. And the third was occultism. Right? Aristotelian scholasticism was a method of critical thinking. It was not a philosophy or theory, but it was a method of teaching and learning, right? Method of teaching and learning. Clear? It emphasized on the use of dialectical reasoning. Dialectical reasoning. What is dialectical reasoning? Dialectical reasoning is the exchange of arguments, right? It is the exchange of arguments or thesis and counter argument or antithesis, right? In order to find a conclusion, clear? The main purpose of it is actually to find an answer to a question or to show contradiction and how it is solved, right? The Aristotelian Chikum, the scholasticism, it was actually Catholic in nature, right? It accepted Aristotle as a great thinker than Plato. It gave prominence to dialectical thinking and syllogistic reasoning. This term syllogistic reasoning is something that is very important in this Aristotelian scholasticism. Syllogistic reasoning chikumde no da deductive reasoning de. Let me explain, but first of all I want to write it. Syllogistic reasoning chideno, it is deductive reasoning to arrive at a conclusion based on two or more propositions that are assumed to be true. Clear? This was based on two methods. If you remember, we have already studied about them, the lectio method and the disputatio method, right? Lectio and disputatio, if you remember, in the initial classes we've already discussed these things, right? Okay. Then aesthetic humanism. Aesthetic humanism was a curriculum design that deals with art, beauty, and individuality. Art, beauty, and individuality. Clear? And occultism. Occultism is also known as esotericism. Esotericism rather. Right? It is the study of hidden truth. Study of hidden truth, right? It's the study of truth. It involves subjects like magic, astrology, spiritualism, extrasensory perceptions, and numerology. The rejection of traditional religion is the main reason as to why people practice occultism, right? It is actually the pure curiosity of the unknown, right? Occultism was well rooted in England, and Bacon was born in this age, right? So if we talk about Bacon's thought, Jos Bacon chideno padiki pakum lara rawanwo. No, he was a man of Renaissance. Man of Renaissance, right? He followed the empirical approach, which was known as the scientific method. Scientific method kata super metric ya pa physics, science, biology really we know scientific method chikam de. So this was the method that he also followed, right? Scientific method, right? He was the father of empiricism. Was empiricism sitaway? Empiricism is a theory, right? Empiricism is a theory, and it states that all knowledge is based on experience that is derived from senses, right? Knowledge the sensory experiences narazi. Knowledge जो है वो sensory experience से आता है, right? It is an important part of scientific method because theories and hypotheses must be observed to be considered accurate, correct, right? Empiricist जो है वो ये जो डॉगमाज हैं या एब्सोल्यूट ट्रूथ्स हैं तो ये इन पे बिल्कुल भी बिलीव नहीं करते, ठीक है? बेकन जो है सो बेकन he accepted inductive method, right? The process of going from observing facts to universal conclusion, right? Like अगर मैं कहूँ कि every time I throw a penny in the air, it comes back down, right? Let me write it. Every time I throw a penny in the air, it comes back down. राइट अब ये जो है ये मैंने एक बात कह दी, ठीक है. अब मैं कहता हूँ कि what goes up must come down. Because when I throw a penny in the air, it comes back down. So it means that whatever I throw up, it will come down, right? Like it's the fact and universal conclusion. Clear? So that's all about Bacon. Thank you very much. That's all about Elizabethan prose. If you have got any question, you can ask me questions via WhatsApp or in the comment box. Take a very good care of yourself. Goodbye.